The stars had never seemed so close, yet so foreign. Captain Hansol stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the view screen. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The station stretched for miles, a gleaming silver wheel that spun slowly in the darkness of space. Lights flickered across its surface like a city at night. This was the heart of galactic civilization, and Earth was about to knock on its door. "We're receiving docking instructions," said Commander Tae Yang from his station. His voice was steady, but Hansol could hear the tension underneath. They were all nervous. This was humanity's first meeting with alien life, and everything had to go perfectly. "Follow their guidance," Hansol replied. "Let's make a good first impression." Ambassador Jiwoo walked onto the bridge, her formal diplomatic robes flowing behind her. She had spent months preparing for this moment, learning what little humanity knew about the Galactic Council.
"How long until we dock?"
she asked. 20 minutes, Hansol said. "Are you ready?" Jiwoo smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "As ready as anyone can be to meet aliens who've been traveling the stars for thousands of years while we just figured out how to leave our solar system." The Horizon glided into one of the station's many docking bays. Through the windows, the crew could see other ships. Some were elegant and sleek, covered in what looked like crystal. Others were blocky and industrial, built for function rather than beauty. Each one represented a species that had been part of the galactic community for longer than human civilization had existed. The docking process took another hour. When the airlock finally opened, Hansol, Jiwoo, and Taeyang stepped through into a corridor that seemed too large for them. The ceiling stretched high above, and the walls glowed with a soft blue light. A group of aliens waited for them. The lead alien was tall and thin, with pale purple skin and 4 arms. Its head was smooth and elongated, with large black eyes that studied the humans with obvious curiosity. "I am Council Director Vexitar," it said through a translator device that hung in the air. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. You are the humans from the planet Earth, yes?" "Yes," Jiwoo said, stepping forward. "I am Ambassador Jiwoo, representing Earth and all of humanity. We are honored to be here." Vextar made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Honored. How quaint. Come, the council is waiting to meet you." They walked through corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than humans. Other aliens passed them, most barely glancing at the newcomers. Some were reptilian with scales that shimmered in the light. Others were almost insect-like, with too many limbs and compound eyes. A few looked almost human, except for small details like extra fingers or oddly colored skin. The council chamber was enormous. 5 thrones sat on a raised platform, each occupied by a different alien. Vextar took his place in the center. The other council members included a being covered in what looked like blue fur, a creature that seemed to be made of living stone, something that resembled a floating jellyfish, and an alien with golden skin and elaborate head crests. "Humans of Earth," Vextar began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Galactic Council has reviewed your application for membership. We find your species to be adequate for inclusion in galactic civilization." Jiwoo felt something twist in her stomach. The word adequate didn't sound like a compliment. "We're grateful for your consideration," she said carefully. "However," continued the stone-like being, "there are conditions. Your planet is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. The gravity is excessive. The weather is violent. Your oceans are filled with predators. Your very air is reactive and corrosive compared to civilized worlds. That species from such harsh environments often display aggressive and unpredictable behavior," added the golden-skinned alien. "Therefore, Earth will be granted membership as a tributary state." Hansol spoke up before Jiwoo could respond. "What does tributary state mean?" Vextar's expression was difficult to read, but his tone suggested amusement. "It means you will have limited representation on the council. You will pay annual tribute to the council treasury. You will not be permitted to expand beyond your home system without council approval. Your military will be restricted to defensive forces only. In exchange, you will receive the protection and wisdom of the galactic community." Taeyang couldn't keep quiet. "You want us to pay you for the privilege of being second-class citizens?" The chamber fell silent. The council members looked at each other, and Jiwoo could sense their surprise. Apparently, no one had ever questioned their terms before. "Commander," Jiwoo said quietly, placing a hand on Taeyang's arm. She turned back to the council. May we have time to review these terms with our government? You may have one of your Earth weeks, Vextar said. But understand these terms are not negotiable. Every new species begins as a tributary. In perhaps 1,000 years, if you prove yourselves civilized, you may earn full membership. The meeting continued for another 2 hours. The council explained their technology sharing policies, which were extremely limited. Humans would be allowed to purchase certain technologies at prices that seemed deliberately high. They would not be permitted to reverse engineer council technology or develop their own without permission. Ji Woo took careful notes, asking questions that the council answered with barely concealed condescension. She noticed things, though. The council members never stood. They remained seated, speaking as if even the act of rising was beneath them. Their station was perfectly climate-controlled. The gravity lighter than Earth's. Everything was clean, ordered, and safe. These were species that had lived in comfort for so long they'd forgotten what struggle meant. After the formal meeting ended, the humans were given a tour of Nexus Prime. They saw marketplaces where goods from 1,000 worlds were traded. They visited viewing platforms where they could see the vastness of space. They met dozens of alien species, most of whom treated them with polite disinterest. That evening, as they prepared to return to the horizon, Vextar approached Ji Woo in one of the station's many corridors. "Ambassador, a word of advice," he said. "I saw your military officer's reaction to our terms. Some species initially resist, thinking they can survive alone in the galaxy. They always return within months, desperate for the Council's protection. Save yourselves the trouble and accept now." Ji Woo met his eyes without flinching. "Thank you for the advice, Director. We'll give your offer the consideration it deserves." Back on the horizon, the 3 humans sat in the captain's ready room. The silence stretched for a long moment before Taeyang spoke. "We can't accept those terms." "No," Han Sol agreed. "We can't, but refusing means we'll be on our own out here." Ji Woo pulled up her notes on the computer screen. "Did you notice something about all the council species? They're soft. They've lived in perfect conditions for so long that they've never had to adapt, never had to innovate. They offer us a 1,000-year path to equality, but I don't think they expect us to last that long." "So what do we recommend to Earth?" Han Sol asked. Ji Woo smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "We tell them the truth. The galaxy is run by bureaucrats who've forgotten what it means to struggle. And we tell them that humanity didn't survive ice ages, plagues, and wars just to become someone's tributary state." Taeyang grinned. "Earth's going to tell them to go to hell, isn't it?" "In the most diplomatic way possible," Ji Woo said. But yes, the horizon undocked from Nexus Prime 6 hours later. As they accelerated away from the station, Han Sol took one last look at the massive structure. The Galactic Council had ruled for millennia, comfortable in their power and certain of their superiority. They had just made a critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The message Earth sent back to the Council 3 days later was brief and polite. "Thank you for your offer," it said. But Earth would pursue independent membership in the galactic community. The Council's response was even briefer. They gave Earth 10 standard galactic years to reconsider. In the Council chamber, Vextar dismissed the entire affair. "They will be back," he told the other Council members. "The galaxy is dangerous for species without protection. Give them a year, perhaps 2. They will learn their place." But as the horizon jumped back to Earth carrying news of the encounter, something shifted in the galaxy. Humanity had been offered a place at the table and had walked away. That had never happened before, and it would never be forgotten. The ultimatum arrived on a Tuesday morning, broadcast across every human comm channel simultaneously. Vextar's face appeared on screens from Earth to the farthest colony, his expression cold and final. "Humans of Earth and associated colonies," he began. "The Galactic Council has determined that your species poses a disruptive threat to galactic stability. You have 3 standard months to accept the following terms: immediate cessation of all colonial expansion, payment of reparations for unauthorized settlement, dissolution of your independent trade networks, and acceptance of full tributary status under Council authority. Failure to comply will result in military action. This is not negotiable." The message ended, leaving billions of humans staring at screens in stunned silence. General Yuna was in a strategy meeting when the ultimatum arrived. She watched it twice, then turned to her staff with a grim expression. "They're serious. We need to analyze their military capabilities immediately. Over the next week, intelligence poured in from every source humanity had developed. Sungmin, head of Earth's intelligence network, compiled the data into a comprehensive report that he delivered personally to Earth's military leadership. The Council fleet consists of approximately 800 capital ships, Sungmin began, displaying images of massive alien vessels. Each ship is more than twice the size of our largest vessels. Their shields are significantly more advanced than ours. Their weapons have longer range. On paper, they vastly outclass us. On paper, General Yuna noted. What else did you find? Sungmin smiled slightly. The Council hasn't fought a real war in 800 years. Their last military action was putting down a minor rebellion by a tributary species. And that was 300 years ago. Their military exists primarily for show. Their tactics are outdated. Their fleet formations are rigid and predictable. He pulled up biological data on the major Council species. More importantly, look at where they come from. The primary Council species evolved on worlds with gravity 30 to 50% lower than Earth's. Their atmospheres are carefully controlled. They have no significant predators. They've lived in perfect conditions for so long that physical hardship is almost unknown to them. Admiral Hansol, who'd led the first mission to Nexus Prime, studied the data. They're soft. Militarily, yes, Sungmin agreed. But they still have superior technology and overwhelming numbers. We can't beat them in a conventional fight. Then we won't fight conventionally, Yuna said. Commander Taeyang, I want you to run wargame simulations. Assume we're facing a technologically superior force with greater numbers, but inferior tactical flexibility. What are our advantages? Taeyang had been promoted to commander of Earth's Special Operations Fleet, a collection of smaller, faster ships designed for unconventional missions. Speed, adaptability, and unpredictability, he said immediately. They'll expect us to fight like they do. Organized fleet battles, formal engagement rules. We surprised them by not playing their game. The strategy sessions continued for weeks. Earth's military had been preparing for potential conflict since the first meeting with the Council. But this was different. This was total war against an opponent that controlled most of the galaxy. Dr. Hana was brought into the planning sessions to discuss weapons development. The Council's shields are powerful, she explained, but they're designed for specific types of weapons. Energy beams, plasma projectiles, standard explosives. What if we used weapons they're not prepared for? Such as? Yuna asked. Kinetic weapons. Dense metal projectiles accelerated to extreme speeds. Their shields can probably stop them, but it will drain more power than they're used to. We could also use electromagnetic pulses. Council technology is highly automated. Disrupt their systems and their ships become much less effective. The weapons development program accelerated. Human engineers, unbound by Council restrictions, created tools of war that were crude by galactic standards but effective. Mass drivers that could fire projectiles at relativistic speeds. EMP warheads designed to overwhelm electronic systems. Ships built with manual backup controls for every critical system. Meanwhile, across human space, colonies prepared for the worst. Governor Min Seo of Harmony Station, a colony on the frontier, organized civilian defense forces. Her world was isolated, too far from Earth for quick reinforcement if the Council attacked. We're not soldiers, one colonist said during a town meeting. What can we do against a galactic military? Min Seo looked at the worried faces around her. These were farmers, engineers, teachers, but they were also people who'd chosen to leave Earth and build new lives on a harsh frontier world. We're humans, she said simply. Our ancestors survived ice ages with stone tools. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They reached the stars with mathematics and determination. We'll survive this too, whatever it takes. The colonists began training, not in formal military tactics but in guerrilla warfare, ambushes, sabotage, hit-and-run attacks. If the Council came to Harmony Station, they'd find every human willing to fight. Ambassador Jiwoo made one final attempt at diplomacy. She requested a meeting with the Council, hoping to find a peaceful solution. The Council agreed, and she traveled to Nexus Prime with a small delegation. The meeting was brief and cold. Vextar sat on his throne, flanked by the other Council members, and listened to Jiwoo's proposal without expression. We're offering a compromise, Jiwoo said. Earth will agree to limit expansion to one new colony per year. We'll participate in Council trade networks, but with fair terms for all parties. We'll share our technological innovations. In exchange, we want full membership. not tributary status. You are in no position to negotiate, Vextar replied. You have built an illegal empire on our doorstep. You have stolen trade that rightfully belongs to council members. You have corrupted the natural order of galactic civilization. Your choice is simple. Submit or be destroyed. Then you're making a mistake, Jiwoo said quietly. Humanity has never done well when someone tries to destroy us. We'd prefer peace, but we'll choose survival over submission. How noble, Vextar said mockingly. How do you imagine your tiny fleet will stand against the might of the Council? We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. We have destroyed species far more powerful than yours. What makes you think you can survive? Jiwoo met his eyes steadily. Because we're survivors. It's what we do. It's all we've ever done. She returned to Earth knowing that war was inevitable. Her report to Earth's government was direct. The Council would not negotiate, would not compromise, and believed humanity would collapse at the first sign of real resistance. They think we're weak because we came from one planet, she told the assembled leaders. They think our technology is primitive. They think we'll surrender as soon as their fleet appears. They're wrong on all counts. Earth's government voted unanimously to reject the Council's ultimatum. The response they sent was crafted carefully by Jiwoo, designed to make humanity's position absolutely clear. The people of Earth thanked the Galactic Council for their ultimatum. We regret that you view our existence as a threat, rather than an opportunity. We have violated no galactic laws. We have settled no claimed territories. We have sought only to build peaceful, prosperous lives for our people. If the Council chooses to attack us for this, then we will defend ourselves with every resource we possess. We do not seek war, but we will not submit to tyranny. The choice is yours. On Nexus Prime, Vextar read the human response and laughed. Tyranny. They accuse us of tyranny when we offer them order and civilization. Very well. They've made their choice. He turned to Krathnos, the Council's war leader. The alien was massive, covered in thick armor-like skin that had evolved on a slightly higher gravity world than most Council species. He was the closest thing the Council had to a warrior, though his experience was entirely theoretical. How long until the fleet is ready? Vextar asked. 2 months, Krathnos replied. We'll assemble at the staging point near human space. 600 ships, the largest fleet we've ever fielded. We'll start with their colonies, destroy them one by one until Earth surrenders. And if they don't surrender, then we destroy Earth itself, Krathnos said coldly. We'll make an example that the entire galaxy will remember. No one defies the Council. As the Council prepared for war, so did humanity. Admiral Kyung-soo dispersed the fleet, positioning ships at strategic points throughout human space. He didn't concentrate his forces. That's what the Council would expect, and expectations were weaknesses to be exploited. Captain Tae-yang took his Special Operations Group on a dangerous mission. They slipped into Council space using civilian transponders, conducting reconnaissance on Council military installations. What they found was revealing. The Council's fleet was impressive to look at, but their security was lax. Ships were maintained by automated systems with minimal crew. Defenses were designed to repel formal attacks, not sabotage or stealth operations. They've been at peace so long they've forgotten what war looks like, Tae-yang reported. They think it's about the size of your fleet and the power of your weapons. They don't understand that war is about will, adaptation, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to win. The first battle began at New Seoul. Governor Junho watched from the planet's command center as 300 Council ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They arranged themselves in perfect formation, a wall of metal and energy that stretched across space. Impressive, muttered Admiral Kyung-soo, who'd taken personal command of New Seoul's defense. He had 80 human ships, a mix of military vessels and armed merchants. On paper, it was no contest. The Council fleet should have swept through them like a storm. They're hailing us, the communications officer said. The face that appeared on screen was Krathnos, the Council war leader. Humans of New Seoul, you have 1 hour to evacuate the planet and surrender your ships. After that, we will consider all remaining vessels as hostile and destroy them. Kyung-soo smiled. This is Admiral Kyung-soo of Earth Defense Fleet. We respectfully decline your offer. New Seoul is human territory. If you want it, you'll have to take it. Krathnos looked almost offended. You cannot possibly believe you can win this engagement. We outnumber you 4 to 1. Our ships are superior in every way. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Mercy, Kyung-soo repeated. Is that what you call demanding we give up our homes? No, thank you. If you want to fight, then fight. But stop talking. The communication cut off. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Council fleet began to advance, maintaining their perfect formation. They're moving like they're in a parade, Tae-Yang said from his ship, positioned near the system's asteroid belt with 20 stealth vessels. They actually think we're going to line up and shoot at each other like it's a formal duel. Let them think that, Kyung-Soo replied. All ships execute pattern Delta 7. The human fleet scattered. Ships broke formation and accelerated in different directions, using the system's natural features for cover. Some dove toward the gas giant using its gravity well for slingshot maneuvers. Others disappeared into the asteroid belt. A few actually flew straight at the Council fleet, then veered away at the last moment. The Council formation wavered, confused by the human ship's chaotic movements. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work. There were rules, established tactics, proper procedures. Humans weren't following any of them. Concentrate fire on the lead human vessels, Krathnos ordered. Destroy them as an example. Council ships opened fire, energy beams lancing across space. But human ships were smaller and faster, designed for the brutal environment of space combat rather than comfort. They dodged and weaved, making themselves difficult targets. Meanwhile, Tae-Yang's stealth group emerged from the asteroid belt behind the Council formation. They'd painted their ships with reflective coating and ran on minimal power, making them nearly invisible to Council sensors. Now they powered up all at once, launching missiles at the Council fleet's rear. The missiles weren't explosive. They were kinetic penetrators. Dense metal rods accelerated to enormous speeds. Council shields could stop them, but it required massive amounts of power. As the shields strained to absorb the impacts, Tae-Yang's ships fired electromagnetic pulse weapons. 3 Council ships went dark as their systems overloaded. Their shields flickered and died. Their weapons stopped firing. They drifted in space, helpless. What is happening? Krathnos demanded. How did they get behind us? Sir, they're not fighting properly, his tactical officer said, sounding almost offended. They're attacking from multiple directions. They're using the asteroids as cover. They're ignoring all standard engagement protocols. Then adapt, Krathnos shouted. We have superior numbers. Surround them. Cut off their retreat. But the Council fleet was designed for frontal assaults, not the three-dimensional chaos that humans had created. As they tried to reform and respond to attacks from multiple directions, their perfect formation broke down. Ships collided with each other. Firing solutions overlapped. The carefully coordinated fleet became a confused mass. Human ships darted in and out, striking where the Council was weakest, then retreating before retaliation could arrive. They fought like wolves hunting prey far larger than themselves, working together with fluid coordination. Captain Boram, commanding her armed merchant ship, led a group that targeted the Council's command vessels. These ships were larger and more heavily shielded, but they were also slower. Boram's group flew in close, too close for the big ships to target them effectively, and launched boarding pods. Boarding pods? Krathnos stared at his screen in disbelief. They're trying to board our ships? That's insane. But it worked. Human soldiers in armored suits breached the Council command ship's hull and fought their way to critical systems. The Council crews, evolved in low gravity, struggled to move in the higher gravity environment the humans had created by adjusting the ship's systems. Hand-to-hand combat was something they'd only studied theoretically. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew how to hurt each other, and those skills translated well to hurting aliens. Within 3 hours, the Council had lost 30 ships. Some were destroyed, but most were disabled and drifting. The human fleet had lost 7 ships, but more importantly, they'd achieved what seemed impossible. They'd hurt an enemy that vastly outnumbered them. Krathnos ordered a retreat. As his fleet withdrew, he watched human ships pursuing them to the edge of the system, harassing them every light second of the way. How? He asked himself. How did primitives from a single world defeat us? The answer was being discussed across the entire galaxy. News of the battle spread fast, carried by traitors and independent observers. The mighty Council fleet had been turned back by a smaller human force, using tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare. They fight dirty, one alien commentator said. They fight smart, another replied. The Council expected them to be civilized. Humans aren't civilized. They're survivors. Admiral Kyung-soo didn't rest on his victory. He knew the Council would be back with more ships and better preparation. He dispersed his fleet into small groups, each one operating independently. "We can't defend everywhere," he told his commanders. "So we defend nowhere. We become raiders, hitting their supply lines, their staging areas, their support infrastructure. Make them spread their forces thin, trying to protect everything. Make every system they control a potential target." It was a strategy that required trust and initiative from every ship commander. There were no safe rear areas, no central command directing every move. Each group had to make its own decisions, adapt to changing situations, and take responsibility for their own survival. It was also something the Council had never dealt with. They were used to fighting enemies who concentrated their forces and defended specific locations. Humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking unpredictably. Captain Taeyang took his stealth group deep into Council space. They identified supply depots, fuel stations, and repair facilities. Then they destroyed them. Not dramatically or completely, just enough to disrupt Council operations. A fuel depot couldn't supply the fleet if half its storage tanks were punctured. A repair station couldn't fix ships if its robotic arms were sabotaged. The Council fleet, designed for short, decisive campaigns, suddenly found itself struggling with logistics. Ships needed fuel but had to travel farther to get it. Damaged vessels had to wait longer for repairs. The perfect machine of Council military power started to break down from 1,000 small failures. Meanwhile, Governor Minseo's colonists on Harmony Station fought their own battle. A Council force arrived to capture the colony, expecting easy victory over civilians. Instead, they found every approach to the colony defended by improvised obstacles. Power stations were hidden underground. Food production was distributed across the entire colony, rather than concentrated in vulnerable locations. When Council troops tried to land, they faced colonists who knew every meter of their own territory. The fighting was brutal and close range. Exactly the kind of combat that favored the humans' higher gravity evolution and aggressive nature. Council soldiers, used to fighting from a distance with advanced weapons, were overwhelmed in hand-to-hand combat. After losing half his force taking a single small colony, the Council commander withdrew. His report was simple and disturbing. Every human settlement would require a massive investment of forces to capture, and holding them would be even harder. Dr. Hana's new weapons began appearing on the battlefield. EMP missiles that could disable multiple ships at once. Railguns that fired projectiles too fast and too small for Council shields to effectively stop. Swarm drones that overwhelmed enemy point defense systems through sheer numbers. None of these weapons were more advanced than Council technology. Most were actually simpler. But they were different, and the Council didn't know how to counter them. General Yuna watched the war develop from Earth's command center, analyzing every engagement. The pattern was clear. Humans were winning not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to fight in ways the Council had never imagined. "They keep expecting us to fight fair," she said to Han Sol. "They want formal battles with clear objectives. We give them chaos and uncertainty. They want to defend everything. We make them choose what to sacrifice. Why will it be enough?" Han Sol asked. 10 months into the war, Krathno stood on the bridge of his flagship and made a decision that would either end the conflict or destroy his entire civilization. He was going to attack Earth itself. 600 ships, he said, studying the tactical display. Every vessel we can spare, concentrated in one overwhelming force. We jump directly to Earth's solar system. We either force their surrender or we destroy their homeworld. Either way, the war ends. On Nexus Prime, Vextar approved the plan immediately. "Do it. End this embarrassment. The entire galaxy is watching us struggle against primitives. Show them what happens to species that defy the Council." Intelligence Officer Sung Min detected the Council's preparations 2 weeks before the attack. His network of informants across Council space reported the massive fleet assembly. He took his findings directly to General Yuna. "They're coming to Earth," he said without preamble. "Everything they have. 600 ships. They'll be here in 12 days. Yuna felt her stomach drop. Earth's orbital defenses were strong, but they'd never been designed to face an assault of this magnitude. The defense fleet had been scattered across human space fighting the war. It would take time to recall them, time they might not have. "Can we evacuate?" she asked quietly. "Where would we go?" Sungmin replied. Earth is home to 11 billion people. We can't evacuate that many. And even if we could, abandoning Earth would mean losing the war. The colonies would surrender without Earth to lead them. Then we defend, Yuna said. Get me Admiral Kyung-soo. Get me every ship commander. Get me Admiral Han Sol. We have 12 days to prepare for the fight of our lives. The preparations were frantic. Every human ship that could reach Earth in time was recalled. Orbital defense platforms were reinforced and armed with every weapon Dr. Hana could devise. The moon's far side became a hidden staging area for Taiyang's stealth fleet. Admiral Han Sol coordinated Earth's defense, but even he knew the mathematics were brutal. They might have 200 ships total, counting everything from military vessels to armed merchants. Against 600 Council warships, it would take a miracle. We don't need a miracle, General Yuna told the gathered commanders on the day before the attack. We need to do what we've been doing all along. Fight smart. Fight dirty. Make them pay for every meter of space. Dr. Hana presented her final contribution to Earth's defense. I've been working on something since the war started. An electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to affect an entire fleet. It's never been tested at this scale. It might not work at all. But if it does, it will shut down every electronic system in range for approximately 90 seconds. Including ours? Kyung-soo asked. Including ours, Hana confirmed. That's why I designed all our key systems with manual backups. It will take us maybe 30 seconds to restart. Council ships are fully automated. It should take them at least 2 minutes, maybe more. 90 seconds to 2 minutes, Han Sol said slowly. That's not much time. It's enough to even the odds, Hana replied, if we use it at the right moment. The Council fleet arrived exactly when Sungmin predicted. 600 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They formed up in the largest military formation the galaxy had seen in centuries. Krathnos broadcast his message to Earth on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, this is your final opportunity for surrender. We have brought overwhelming force to your home system. Your fleets are scattered. Your defenses cannot stand against us. Surrender now. Accept tributary status and you will be permitted to live. Refuse, and we will destroy your world. The response came from Admiral Han Sol. This is Admiral Han Sol of Earth Defense Fleet, speaking for all of humanity. We appreciate your concern for our well-being, but we're going to have to decline. Earth is our home. We were born here, we've built our civilization here, and if necessary, we'll die here. But we won't surrender. If you want Earth, come and take it. The Council fleet advanced. This time there would be no clever tactics, no hiding in asteroid belts. This was a straightforward assault on a fixed position. Krathnos had learned from his previous defeats. He kept his fleet together, moving as a unified wall of force that could not be flanked or divided. Earth's defense fleet met them halfway to Mars. 200 human ships against 600 Council vessels. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire that lit up space like a solar flare. Human ships fought with desperate courage, throwing themselves at the Council fleet. They used every trick they'd learned, every tactic that had worked before. But this time, the Council was ready. Their formation held. Their shields absorbed the attacks. Their superior numbers began to tell. Within the first hour, Earth lost 40 ships. The Council lost 15. The mathematics were simple and terrible. At this rate, Earth's fleet would be destroyed long before they could significantly damage the Council forces. Pull back to Earth orbit, Han Sol ordered. All ships retreat to defensive position Alpha. Krathnos watched the human fleet retreat and felt satisfaction for the first time in months. They're finally fighting logically. They're falling back to their fixed defenses. This is the beginning of the end. The Council fleet pursued, closing in on Earth like a tightening fist. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire, adding their weapons to the defense fleets. The battle intensified. Space around Earth became a storm of energy beams, missiles, and debris from destroyed ships. Governor Minseo arrived from Harmony Station with 20 colony ships, every vessel her settlement could spare. They were poorly armed, barely more than transports with weapons bolted on. But they threw themselves into the battle anyway, "We came to help," she transmitted simply. "Where do you need us?" Other colony fleets were arriving too, called back by Sung Min's urgent messages. From New Seoul, from every human settlement, ships came to defend Earth. Some arrived damaged from previous battles. Some were piloted by civilians who'd never seen combat. All of them refused to let humanity's homeworld fall without a fight. But it wasn't enough. The Council fleet kept coming, absorbing losses that would have broken any other force. They had the numbers. They had the technology. They had the will to win. Admiral Kyung-soo watched his tactical display as the Council fleet entered optimal range. "Dr. Hana, are you ready?" "The pulse is charged," Hana replied from her control station deep inside Earth's defense network. "But remember, this is untested. It might not work." "It'll work," Kyung-soo said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. "It has to. All ships prepare for electronic shutdown. Switch to manual controls in 3, 2, 1, now." Dr. Hana activated her weapon. A pulse of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from Earth, invisible but devastating. Every electronic system within a massive sphere of space simply stopped working. Council ships went dark. Their shields vanished. Their weapons stopped firing. Their navigation, communications, and life support systems crashed simultaneously. 600 warships became 600 helpless metal containers drifting in space. Human ships went dark too, but they were ready. In every ship, crew members threw switches and turned valves, activating manual backup systems. Engines roared back to life. Weapons powered up, shields regenerated. 90 seconds after the pulse, human ships were operational again. The Council fleet was still dark. "All ships," Hansol transmitted, "open fire. Target their engines and weapon systems. Disable but don't destroy unless necessary." The next 2 minutes were brutal and decisive. Human ships poured fire into the helpless Council vessels, systematically crippling them. By the time Council systems began coming back online, half their fleet was disabled. Krathno stared at his screens as they finally rebooted. His fleet was destroyed. Not annihilated, but combat ineffective. Ships drifted with dead engines. Weapons were offline. Communications were chaos as every vessel tried to report simultaneously. "Impossible," he whispered. What did they do? Captain Tae-yang chose that moment to emerge from behind Earth's moon with his stealth fleet. Fresh ships with full weapons appeared suddenly in the middle of the confused Council formation. "This is Captain Tae-yang to all Council vessels. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are disabled. Surrender now and you will be treated according to civilized rules of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every remaining ship." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, Council ships began transmitting surrender signals. They'd come to crush humanity and found themselves crushed instead. Krathno sat in his command chair, defeated. He opened a channel to Admiral Hansol. "I surrender my fleet. But understand this. The Council will never accept this defeat. They will send more ships. This war will not end here." "It ends today," Hansol replied. "Look at your long-range sensors. Tell me what you see." Krathnos checked and felt his blood run cold. All across the galaxy, Council stations and military installations were under attack, not by humans, but by their own tributary species. The battle at Earth had been broadcast across the entire galaxy. Everyone had watched the mighty Council fleet defeated by humanity, and if humans could defeat the Council, so could anyone else. "The rebellion has already started," Hansol said. "Your tributary species are rising up. Your monopolies are collapsing. 5 years had passed since Earth rejected the Council's offer, and the galaxy was changing in ways no one had predicted." Admiral Kyung-soo stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the data streams flow across multiple screens. Each number represented something that should have been impossible. 47 human colonies spread across 16 star systems, 12 independent trade routes, over 300 ships in active service, all of this accomplished in just 5 years. "Sir, the newest report from New Seoul just came in," said a young lieutenant, handing him a data pad. "Governor Junho says they've reached full self-sufficiency. They're even exporting food to 3 nearby systems. Kyung-soo nodded, impressed but not surprised. New Seoul was humanity's largest colony, home to over 2 million people. The planet was harsh by council standards, with heavy gravity and violent weather patterns. The council had marked it as uninhabitable. Humans had built a thriving city there in 3 years. What about the new colony sites? Kyung-soo asked. Survey teams have identified 6 more prospects, all in unclaimed space, all meeting our criteria. The criteria were simple. Humans looked for worlds the council considered too difficult. High-gravity planets, worlds with extreme weather, systems too far from major trade routes. These were the places humanity thrived, where their evolution on Earth's harsh environment gave them an advantage. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Captain Boram guided her merchant ship through a jump point. The Swift Prophet was loaded with goods from Earth and her colonies. Medical supplies, tools, manufactured goods, and most importantly, food. Real food, not the synthetic nutrition that most council species consumed. Her destination was Velkara Station, an independent trading post on the edge of council space. The station was officially neutral territory, which meant it was one of the few places where humans could trade freely with other species. As she docked, Boram checked her manifest one more time. Everything was in order. She'd learned the trick to successful trading in the galaxy: offer better quality at lower prices. It wasn't complicated, but apparently the council had never figured it out. Their trade monopolies meant high prices and limited selection. Human traders were breaking that system, one transaction at a time. Captain Boram called out a familiar voice as she entered the station's main marketplace. It was Rixvar, a trader from one of the minor species. His people were technically part of the council, but they'd been relegated to minor roles for centuries. Did you bring what I requested? Fresh coffee, 10 kilograms, Boram said with a smile. And I threw in some tea samples. No extra charge. Rixvar's eyes widened. Coffee had become unexpectedly popular among several alien species. The council controlled most luxury goods, but Earth's independent traders offered them at a fraction of the price. You humans are going to make me rich, he said, transferring the payment. We'll both get rich, Boram replied. That's how fair trade works. As she conducted her business, Boram noticed something interesting. More and more aliens were visiting the human section of the market. They came for the goods, but they stayed to talk. They asked questions about Earth, about human colonies, about how humans had built so much so quickly. Some of them had a look in their eyes that Boram recognized. It was hope. Back on Earth, Dr. Hana worked in her laboratory, surrounded by equipment that would have confused most council scientists. She wasn't trying to copy council technology. She was doing something they'd apparently never considered: combining different approaches to solve problems. Council species had developed their technology over thousands of years, each following a specific path based on their unique biology and environment. But they'd stopped innovating. They used what worked and never questioned whether there might be better ways. Humans questioned everything. Dr. Hana's current project was a new type of power core that used principles from 3 different council technologies modified to work together in ways none of them were originally designed for. It was more efficient, more reliable, and significantly cheaper to produce than anything the council manufactured. Doctor, you have visitors, her assistant said, interrupting her work. 3 aliens entered her lab, representatives from independent worlds that weren't part of the council's inner circle. They'd heard about human innovation and wanted to see it for themselves. Is it true you've increased power efficiency by 40%? Asked one of them, a being with iridescent scales. 43% in the latest tests, Dr. Hana said. And we're just getting started. Come, let me show you. As she explained her work, the aliens listened with an intensity that told her everything she needed to know. The council had kept the galaxy stagnant for so long that even modest improvements seemed revolutionary. The situation had not gone unnoticed by the council. In the grand chamber on Nexus Prime, Vexitar faced his fellow council members with growing frustration. The humans have established 47 colonies, he said, his voice tight with anger. 47. In 5 years, we explicitly told them they could not expand without our permission. They claim all their colonies are in unclaimed space, replied the blue-furred council member. Technically, they're following galactic law. Technically, Vexitar spat the word. They're undermining everything we've built. Their traders are breaking our trade agreements. Their colonies are attracting refugees from our tributaries. Independent worlds are requesting human mediation in disputes instead of coming to us. The golden-skinned council member shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we were too hasty in offering them such restrictive terms. They've proven more capable than we anticipated. Capable? Vextar stood, his forearms spreading wide. They're dangerous. They refuse to follow the proper order. They innovate without permission. They trade without respect for established monopolies. This cannot continue. A decision was made. The Council would send another diplomatic mission to Earth, this time with demands instead of offers. The humans would be ordered to slow their expansion, pay tribute for the space they'd already claimed, and submit to Council authority. If they refused, there would be consequences. Governor Junho received the Council's delegation on New Sol. He was a practical man who'd spent 3 years turning a hostile planet into a thriving colony. He had little patience for bureaucracy. "Let me make sure I understand," he said, reading through the Council's demands. "You want us to pay you for settling planets you said were worthless. You want us to stop expanding, even though we're only settling unclaimed worlds, and you want us to submit to authority we never agreed to accept. It is for the good of galactic stability," the Council representative said. "Your rapid expansion is disrupting the established order." "The established order where you control everything and everyone else pays you for the privilege?" Junho asked. "That order? Your tone is inappropriate," the representative said stiffly. "My tone is honest," Junho replied. "Here's my response, and I suspect Earth will say the same thing. No, we're not paying tribute for our own hard work. We're not stopping expansion into unclaimed space, and we're definitely not submitting to authority we never recognized in the first place." The representative left New Sol without accomplishing anything. His report to the Council was scathing. The humans were rebellious, arrogant, and completely unwilling to accept the natural order of galactic civilization. The Council's response was predictable. They imposed economic sanctions. No Council species was permitted to trade with humans. No human ships would be allowed in Council space. Any species that violated these sanctions would face penalties. The sanctions lasted 6 weeks before they started to collapse. Independent traders like Boram simply redirected their routes, trading through neutral stations and non-Council space. The goods still flowed, just through different channels. Meanwhile, several Council tributaries quietly continued trading with humans, finding the economic benefits too valuable to give up. Admiral Kyung-soo watched the situation develop with interest. "They're losing control," he said to his staff. The Council built their power on monopolies and restrictions. "We're offering alternatives, and the galaxy is responding." "Sir, we're receiving requests for asylum," one of his officers reported. 3 ships carrying refugees from Council space. They want to settle in human territory. "What kind of refugees?" "Families, mostly. From tributary species. They say they've heard that humans treat everyone equally. They want a chance to build their own lives without paying tribute to the Council." Kyung-soo authorized the asylum requests. It was the right thing to do, but he also knew it would infuriate the Council. Humans weren't just competing with the Council anymore. They were offering something the Council had never provided: freedom. On Nexus Prime, Vextar finally admitted what his fellow Council members had been reluctant to say out loud. "The humans are not going to submit," he said. "They've built an alternative to our system in just 5 years. If we allow this to continue, we'll lose everything. Our tributaries will demand equal treatment. Our monopolies will collapse. The order we've maintained for millennia will end." "What are you proposing?" asked the Stone-like Council member. "We declare the humans a disruptive element," Vextar said. "We mobilize the fleet.